Welcome to another edition of Hey DT. Hey DT is a series of videos I do where I respond to viewer questions and comments. These viewer questions and comments, they typically come through the comments on the YouTube videos, the videos posted on Odyssey as well. Sometimes they come through social media such as Reddit or Mastodon. Sometimes they come through email. And the very first question I want to respond to is really a comment, not a question. And this comes from a recent video I did where I took a look at the last release of Debian, and I had some issues with it. I had some errors. Maybe I didn't install it right. There was a problem with the apt sources. I couldn't install any software, and I troubleshooted the problem and I fixed it on camera during that video. And this person responds, "Hey DT, it's nice to see someone that actually shows when things don't go according to the plan sometimes. I've been holding off on modernizing my sources list for some weeks now, and I'm greatly thankful for you intentionally or not showing me how to do this quickly with apt." Well, I appreciate the response, and I do try to keep a lot of mistakes and errors in my videos, especially when I'm showing things off, showing off some of these distributions or showing off some software. If I make a mistake that I think is a mistake you're likely to make, I'm almost always going to keep it in the video. I'm going to try to fix it and show you how to fix it because I do think that's important. I think a lot of content creators, especially when it comes to software, really just everything. You know, anybody that's trying to teach you something, they often feel like it's a slight on them if they make a mistake or things don't go according to the plan. And for me, I think that's a good thing. I think that's great content, right? That's the content I want to watch. You know, if I'm consuming content, I want to see real world mistakes and how to troubleshoot them and how to fix them. So I hope you guys appreciate that as well. Moving on, another comment. This comes from the video I did about fragmentation. So I asked the question, is fragmentation on Linux and fragmentation in the free and open source software communities, is fragmentation a good thing or a bad thing? And this person responded, "Hey DT, I feel the answer is one of those yes and no questions," right? Because I did a video also saying most questions are both yes and no, right? Not everything is so black and white. I'm glad he responded with yes and no here. It goes, "I think choice is great. And one of the reasons Linux is great is that you can curate your experience as you see fit. In my opinion, this is a strength, and it becomes a deficit when developers claim this as to why they won't make apps for Linux. The truth, as in most cases, is this is not really a valid excuse. Devs could decide to package their apps in a format like Flatpak, and that would pretty much fix that argument. Thanks for the great video." So I understand the point he's making here, that a lot of devs point to the fragmentation in Linux as an excuse why they can't package their software for everything. I think it's a valid excuse. I give the devs credit there. Like, if I was a dev, I wouldn't package my app for every single distribution out there. And he mentions just package it for Flatpak. Yeah, okay, well, that's still a choice too, because why not package it for AppImage or Snap or the Nix package manager or the Geeks package manager? Like, there's other universal package managers out there for Linux. Heck, you could even use something like Homebrew, right? And this is the thing. You mentioned, hey, why don't you just make a choice? Of course, make the choice I want you to make, right? Because I guarantee you this person really likes Flatpak. I use Flatpaks, they're fine. But again, there's more choices than that out there. He's like, well, why doesn't everybody just use the one choice that I think everybody wants to use? You're never going to get everybody to decide to use one thing. It's never going to happen. It's never happened in the 30 some odd years history of Linux. It's never happened in the 40 some odd years of free software. We don't standardize ever. It just doesn't happen. It's never happened before. It's not going to happen into the future. As long as people have that freedom, they're going to do what they want to do. But I would never criticize a dev that says fragmentation on Linux is a problem and a headache for the work they do. I know it is because I'm not a developer. I'm not a professional developer. I don't want to be in that line of work. But the little bit that I play around, programming and scripting and creating things, it's a headache. And Linux and the fractured ecosystem makes it a bigger headache than what it really should be. Moving on, another comment. So the last time I did a Hey DT video, I asked you guys, would you like this available as a podcast? Now, I've had hundreds of these Hey DT videos over the years. I do these typically about once a month. I don't do these on a regular schedule, but I have a lot of Hey DT videos out there. And I thought about converting them to also audio only formats and uploading them to something like Spotify, things like that. But it's a lot of work. It would cost a little money too, but I asked, would people be interested in something like this? And I had a lot of people say, yeah, that'd be great. And this person responds, hey DT, a Hey DT podcast would be great, except ffmpeg already makes podcasts for me. So you're right. If you know a little bit about Linux and some of the great shell utilities like ffmpeg, you can certainly just rip the audio from a video format and you got your podcast. You got your audio only Hey DT podcast. But one of the things I discovered is that on YouTube, with playlist, if you specify one of your YouTube playlists as a podcast, then it will actually, on YouTube, it wouldn't matter. You're still going to go to the Hey DT playlist and you'll, for example, watch the latest Hey DT video as a video. But if you have the YouTube Music app, so there's a YouTube Music app, you can put it on your Android phone or your iOS phone, and in YouTube Music, of course, it's designed to play audio-only music, well, like your music videos. But you don't necessarily need to see the music video, right? But you've got the actual sound. Same thing with the Hey DT playlist, right? Now that I've marked that playlist as a podcast, if you have YouTube Music, you should be able to get Hey DT on that thing. At least I think so. I haven't tried it out myself, but about a month ago, I did mark all the Hey DT videos as podcasts on YouTube. So hopefully that shows up if you have the YouTube Music app. Moving on, this question, hey DT, since a lot of your viewers are people who sit in front of a computer a lot, it should be a good idea to make a video about all of the diseases that come with such a lifestyle and how to prevent them. I recently had a open pilonidal, I don't know that word, cyst surgery, and its recovery is terrible. Yeah, I don't know what that word is or what that condition is. I hope you're doing fine. You mentioned the recovery is terrible. As far as medical advice, I'm not going to give people advice on that. As far as just general healthy lifestyle advice, I don't sit in front of a computer all day, so I don't have a lot of problems like, I'm not in a chair all day. That's what causes people to have problems. They're sitting all day. I don't sit all that much. I'll sit down in front of a computer for an hour or two, and then I move around. I'm not in front of a computer all day. I go to the gym 4 times a week, 5 times a week. I try to work out a lot. I lift weights, walk on a treadmill. I do a lot of stuff, just to keep active. I mean, I'm nearly 50 years old, and I try to do a little more than what most people my age do as far as, trying to be a little more active, because I see a lot of people my age that they can't get around, right? They look really broke down. They have trouble doing basic things like just walking or climbing a flight of stairs. They just look rough. And I don't want to be in that situation, because, if you're in that situation in your 40s and your 50s, what are you going to look like? And, what are you going to be like when you're 70, 80, 90? I mean, people are living a long time nowadays, right? The average lifespan is into the 80s. And if you're having real health issues early in life, it's going to be a problem later in life if you're fortunate enough to live that long, right? Because, of course, not everybody will. But if you're fortunate enough to live into your 80s, 90s, maybe you even live to 100, you don't want to be living that long and suffering, being in constant pain, or just not being able to live the life you want to live. So I do encourage people to actually live a healthy lifestyle. Open a gym membership, do a little something. It's not that hard. It's like anything in life. You have to be disciplined. It's like when you were going to school as a kid, you had to go to school every single day, Monday through Friday, right? You just had to do it, in that time period, that day. Same thing with the gym, and this is not a time commitment like school. It's just go for, an hour or 2, 3 times a week. Right? Just do that, and you'd be surprised at the dramatic quality of life improvements that would make. Next up, this person writes, hey DT, feature request. It would be awesome if you make a video series on how to become a YouTuber using only Linux software. preferably FOSS only. I would love to see a series like that where you literally have your hand held from coming from Windows all the way to using things like Flatpaks and snaps, using the terminal, gaming, and eventually becoming a live streamer or digital content creator. Just an idea, throwing it out there. Thanks for all your hard work. Love your content. Appreciate that. So, would I ever make this kind of video? I mean, I've got videos about everything I do on a computer. As far as, do I need to make a special video on how to become a video content creator on Linux? It's really not that different than doing it on Windows or Mac, right? It really isn't. Like, this is not, there's no real barrier because, for example, as you talk about becoming a streamer, pretty much everybody that streams on YouTube or other platforms as well uses OBS, free and open source software available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. We all use that. So it really doesn't matter. Like, the experience is about the same. As far as other things, creating thumbnails, I mean, use whatever kind of art program you want to use. I use GIMP. On the Windows world, probably use something like Photoshop. Mac as well, probably use something like Photoshop, although there's tens of millions of people that use GIMP on Windows and Mac as well, and other programs. There's plenty of stuff up there. You can use like Krita and things like that to create your artwork, your channel headers, your thumbnails, whatever it is you're comfortable using. Like, there's no right and wrong answer as far as software. There's plenty of software out there for that. And then video editors, there's a million video editors out there. If you want to use free and open source software video editors, Kdenlive is pretty much your go-to on Linux, also on Windows as well. Kdenlive actually does have a Windows port, but if you want to use proprietary software, obviously DaVinci Resolve is out there and many others. But the world is your oyster, right? When it comes to content creation software, video editors, audio editors, and we've got plenty of stuff that's cross-platform. If you've got machines that run both Windows and Linux, so it's not as complicated as what your question makes it out to be. And if it's one of those things, if you're thinking about becoming a content creator, really all you need to do you have a camera? If you don't have a camera, do you have a cell phone that's got a decent camera? Do you have a microphone? Microphones, pretty decent microphones are actually not very expensive. Most of those things, especially if it's a USB microphone, will just plug into your computer and work. You don't really have to have like an XLR mic or audio interface, especially when you get started. Most of the stuff you buy, simple webcams, simple USB microphones, they just plug into your computer and they just work. But I have done videos in the past about certain aspects of content creation. I have videos about Kdenlive and GIMP and OBS and some other things like that. So check out some of those older videos. Moving on, HeyDT, what are you using now that Arco Linux is no more? Did you move to Kiro to stay with Erik? I'm assuming he's asking about Erik Dubois, the guy that created and maintained Arco Linux for all those years. And I used Arco Linux for a number of years. Now, when I say I used Arco Linux, I installed Arco Linux on my machines, but they really weren't Arco Linux because I didn't necessarily use any of the Arco software. I really didn't use a lot of their repositories. A lot of times I would disable their repositories, just use the standard Arch repositories. I have my own repositories of software sometimes that I was maintaining. To say I was running Arco Linux is a bit of a stretch, but I installed Arco Linux on all my machines and I liked it. I loved featuring it on the channel. I know other users love Arco Linux. As far as the Linux community really loved that project, and I really wanted to promote it because I thought it was a fantastic distribution, right? And did I move to Kiro to stay with Erik? I don't know Kiro. It's the first time I've ever heard of that. I'm assuming it's a Linux distribution. I'll have to write that down, but I don't know anything about it. So no, I'm not using it. What am I using? I'm using Arch Linux, right? I'm just using Arch Linux. So I installed Arco, and I mentioned typically I didn't use the Arco repos anyway. After the installation, I use Arch anyway. And then when Arco, actually ended life as a project and their repos are no more, if you were on Arco, you just disable the Arco repos, right? You just remove those from your pacman.conf. Make sure you enable the standard Arch repos, and you just keep going along as an Arch user. And that's pretty much what I've been for all these years. So no, I didn't need to move to something else. I was just, it was very easy for me. I changed a couple of lines in my pacman.conf, and I'm was from Arco, just straight to Arch. I didn't follow Erik around. I typically don't follow people around. Like, why would I follow Erik around? I mean, I don't know him that well. I interacted with him, you know, on email and things like that on occasion. But, you know, I typically, I don't base my software decisions on what other people are using, and I don't follow them around. Kind of a strange question. Next up, hey DT, great stuff as always. Something that has caught my interest as of late is the idea of installing Debian the Arch way by using debootstrap. Could be a great way of marrying the ideas of a stable system for production while being able to manually choose your packages for a custom or minimal system. Would love to hear your thoughts. My thoughts are, this is kind of the way that I typically do install most distributions, not just Arch, but a lot of times when I do Debian installs or Ubuntu installs for myself, not for other people. But if I'm going to install, for example, Debian or Ubuntu LTS on one of my machines, I know I'm not going to use the GNOME desktop environment. I know I don't want the suite of software that those distributions are going to give me out of the box. So what do? Typically, I install Debian server or Ubuntu LTS server. Why? It's because they don't ship with any graphical packages at all. And then from there, I build what I want, right? I install the desktop or the window manager that I'm going to use, and then the various packages that I want to use. I pick and choose all of my programs. It's very much like an Arch install. In some ways, it's a little more tedious than an Arch install because, at least with Arch, Arch is designed for the installation to actually be that way, where if you're an Ubuntu user, for example, you may find it kind of cumbersome to start with like an Ubuntu server install and then try to build it into a desktop distribution, because a lot of the Ubuntu packages, especially if you're going to start installing things that are GNOME programs, a lot of those things are kind of designed to work as a big meta package for the Ubuntu desktop package, which is their customized GNOME package. So don't be surprised if you install one program and sometimes it pulls in a bunch of other stuff that you didn't necessarily want, where with distributions that are really designed to be more minimal and modular, things like Arch or Gentoo, you know, you're going to have less headaches if that's the way you want to go. But you certainly can start with a minimal install of Debian and Ubuntu or any distribution that has such images, and then build on top of them. Moving on, and this is the final question. This comes from Jake Linux, who has a really cool Linux channel. He focuses a lot on window managers and, you know, cool shell utilities and stuff like that. He's got a great channel. Go check out Jake Linux. And this comes from one of the videos I did recently on Doom Emacs. He writes, "Hey DT, thanks for this. I'm completely redoing my system, and I've decided to give Emacs a real go instead of Vim and neovim. I have tried before but never stuck with it, but this is the time. I'm not using Doom or Evil mode though. I am writing my own config. I want to use Emacs, not Vim/Emacs. Any advice?" Sure. So for me, and I was very similar, you know, when I first switched to Emacs, I wanted to use just GNU Emacs, right? And I wanted to learn some of the basic GNU Emacs bindings. So I spent about a month. I spent about 30 days just using Emacs with the Emacs bindings, and I had some hand pain. The bindings kind of hurt my hand because of all the key chords that involved the control key. You know, it really is bad on the pinkies, right? And I've got custom keyboards. My control key is not a stretch, but I don't have very big hands. But, you know, for some people, the Emacs key bindings can be a problem. So just keep that in mind. As far as you mentioned, you don't want to use Vim/Emacs. You want to use Emacs the Emacs way. That's great to start out with, but don't fear just using Evil mode in Emacs, because there's nothing, you don't really lose or gain anything by switching to the Vim bindings from the Emacs bindings inside Emacs. You got access to all the programs on Emacs regardless, and Emacs is kind of designed to be whatever you want it to be, right? That's the whole point of Emacs. It's you customize it to be whatever it is you want it to be. If in this case, a text editor, you create your own text editor. If you want to use the Emacs bindings, great. If you want to use the Vim bindings, great. There's plugins. If you want to use the Cocoon bindings, great. There's plugins that you just want to use standard Kua bindings, like turn the thing into Microsoft WordPad. Yeah, great. Like, you can do whatever it is you want to do with Emacs, and no one cares. No one's going to judge you. And So don't fear going to evil mode at some point, but I do think when you're first learning Emacs, it's good to learn some of the basic bindings for save and quitting and things like that, because sometimes you will be in a situation where even if you're an evil mode user, sometimes you'll be in a buffer that doesn't have evil mode enabled, or evil mode crashes, or something will happen. And damn, what is the standard Emacs command to actually close a window, or to save a file? Well, I know them because I learned them, and you'll learn them too. So spend a few weeks learning the basic Emacs bindings. I think it is worthwhile, but don't be afraid at some point to go ahead and install evil mode, and then you get the best of both worlds, because now you get the Vim bindings are just better. In my opinion, it's a better workflow. It's much easier on the hands, especially. I already mentioned my hand pain. But again, even if you install evil mode, the Emacs bindings still work. So like I've got Doom Emacs installed, which has evil mode out of the box. But if I want to hit, I don't know, Control-C, Control-S to save a file instead of just :W to write to the file like you would with the Vim bindings, I certainly could do that. You can actually do both if you want. Now, one consideration for most people, I would suggest starting with evil mode. If you're somebody that is used to Vim and you want to try out Emacs, but you don't want to learn the Emacs bindings, which isn't the case for Jake. But for most people, they want to get up to speed as quickly as possible. And if you already know the Vim bindings, just install evil mode. That's what I recommend for most people. So that's it for this edition of Hey DT. But before I go, I need to thank the producers of this episode. I need to thank the following folks. I need to thank Matt, Steve, 40mm, Cap Caveman, Darloff, Lee, Jersey Killer, Mark, Methos, Urion, Paul, Peace Arch of Door, Realities for Less, Red Prophet, Roland, Wargento, and Ubuntu, and Willie. These guys, they're my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. Without these guys, this episode of Hey DT would not have been possible. The show is also brought to you by each and every one of these fine ladies and gentlemen as well. All these names you're seeing on the screen. These are all my supporters over on Patreon. Without these guys, I couldn't do what I do. If you like my work and want to see more videos about free and open source software and Linux, please subscribe to DistroTube over on Patreon. Peace, guys.